with my special guest. We're getting ready to have some real conversations. I know you guys are going to be inspired, you're going to be motivated, you're going to be challenged a little bit, but it's all going to be good. So I want to welcome Lawana Wilson, who is an author, a speaker in ministry. She's a psalmist. She does it all, and she is gifted and called to do what she's doing. And so, Lawana, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me, Yolanda. I always enjoy spending time with you on these conversations.
Yes, we're going to have some great conversations today. But I want to start off. I know you have a recently released book. So I want to start there and talk a little bit. I think it's a journal that's going along with the other book.
That is correct.
And some people may not even know about the first book. So I want us to talk about your book and why did you decide to do the companion journal or devotional to go along with that? So first off, just share a little bit about your first book.
Yes.
For those that may not know.
All right. Well, my first book is an acronym for the word virgin, and it stands for Valuable Individual Requiring God's Influence Now. So that's a mouthful. So it is an acronym. That book was birthed out of a season of really asking God, okay, Lord, why am I even here? Why am I on earth? What is my legacy? What am I to leave here in the earth? What is my contribution? And out of that, this book was birthed. It's walking really anyone, but my target focus audience is millennials and Gen Z, the teenagers. But I am finding that this message in this book is transcending any generational gaps.
Yeah.
The book is really kind of an open letter. It's me sharing my life and walking my millennials and teenagers through knowing their worth, discovering their value, discovering their purpose, avoiding the distractions that come in life that just get you all off course and you look up 10, 20 years later and you're like, how did I get here? So I wanted to share from my own personal experience and really be an encouragement, not only an encouragement, but just give them some tools to use, because I felt like they were just trying to reinvent the wheel and it wasn't necessary. Especially you have myself and others who are willing to open up and share and help them avoid some of those pitfalls. Exactly. And help them prepare better for life and help them stay on course. So that's what the first book was about. Now, at the end of each chapter, it does have questions to help you process. And so it kind of pulls in that journaling aspect of it. And I'm an avid journaler. I've been journaling since 3rd grade. So I wanted to pull that element into the book, but maybe about 2 years later, after the book was out, and it's been out about 3 going on 4 years now, about the 2nd year.
It doesn't even seem like it's been that long.
It does not, it really doesn't. I feel like I'm still at the beginning of this journey. But about a few years afterwards, I realized that I just felt like there was something else. And I thought initially it was gonna be a parent teacher guide or leader guide. So, to help facilitate discussions in small groups and things like that. And I sat with that for a bit and I couldn't get that to flow. So I sat back and I was like, okay, what do I do? What do I do? I journal. So I was like, okay, well, we're going to do a journal. Well, what is the journal going to focus on? Well, the number one question I get asked is, how do you do this, Lawana? How have you, lived an abstinent lifestyle this long? And we want to know. They wanted to know how it's done. There's really a generation of young people out there that really want to honor God with their body. And so I said, okay, so I'm going to have to try to pour my devotional life into, some pages. And that's when my new baby was born.
Yes.
Devotional. And that was I finished up the content Christmas 2019 while I was home with my family. And then I pushed through this pandemic and actually got it submitted and layout design and covering all that during the pandemic. So that's been out probably since about August. And it literally is, I have it broken up in quarters because I don't want you to rush. This is not your daily bread or your verse for the day. This is taking a chunk or a portion of scripture and sitting with it for a couple of months.
That's good, Lawana.
Chewing on it, gleaning from it, drawing from it, going back to God about it. What else can I get from this, Lord? It's not quick at all. And it's gives you, I give you a songs reference if you want to play some worship at some point and just kind of meditate. I give you some, bullet points just to kind of spur your thoughts if you're kind of sitting there and, don't really know where to go with it. And then plenty of pages to just journal and write. That has been my process. That has been how I have worked through and discovered myself and discovered my strengths and weaknesses and my gifts and calling. And that's my process. And so I tried to put that actually in a journal form. So.
Great. That is so needed. And I love when you said, just sit with the word. Because a lot of times what we have done and what many of us are still doing is making sure that we can check off that we read the word. And it's more than just reading the word and checking off that I read the word today. No, it's really letting it get into your spirit, man.
Yes.
And really, sometimes we read stuff and you don't even know what that even means. How did you relate it back to yourself? How did you relate it to your situation? What is God saying to you, even if you've read it before?
Absolutely.
So that time, that is so good. What are you hearing? You've been doing your lives on social media for a while. What is the one thing that resonates on all of your lives that you're having to continue to go back to and encourage and motivate people? In what areas are you seeing that are always coming up?
Probably two things: that longing for connection, that longing for acceptance. So that's one, that not just connection, but that kind of connection where you're accepted just the way you are. And then two, people, honestly, which I really, when I got the title of the book, I don't think I really understood the how far that reaching that whole knowing your worth and knowing your value was. I just, you see people and you assume they're confident, they've got, things going on and they look really together. So you just assume they must know their worth. They must be, not true, Yolanda.
Right.
True. And so that is the second thing that I find constantly coming up is they want to devalue themselves, and they don't even really realize they're doing it sometimes, but they devalue themselves just to get what they think they really need or want. So instead of waiting on God's best, instead of seeing themselves as the prize, there's this part of them that's just like, well, I'll just settle, or well, I'll just, and they make these compromises and they regret them later. So a result of not knowing your worth.
Exactly. And also understanding that singleness is a gift.
Yes.
And I think sometimes because of what others may say to them, like, I've heard it, you've heard it, we've all heard it. Like, why are you still single?
Yes.
I can't believe you're not married. And you hear that so much that you devalue your time of being single. And so once you are married, you're like, oh, I want some of that back.
Yeah.
We realize that it is a gift to be single, and it's a gift to be married. Neither one is a negative. And so I think people have a hard time seeing that in their singleness if they're around a lot of people that are either getting a lot of people getting married, or a lot of your friends are married. They tend to focus on that.
It's true. If they, are, especially with social media, all you see is, everybody's together, everybody's booed up. And it's like, what about me? And so you have those that are just like, what's wrong with me? And it begins to become a negative versus, all the freedom you have and all the opportunity you have as a single person. It becomes, well, what's wrong with me?
Right. Instead of seeing themselves as a gift.
As a gift, and as this being one of the greatest times of their lives. The live I did just this previous Monday, the question was asked of me. Actually, I'm usually asking all the questions, but the question was asked of me. to kind of share what is it about me being single that, why am I so content? And I told him, guys, I live life. I have traveled, I've lived abroad, I've done things, and I can't even, I'm not even going to say that they've been like, when they think of done things, they mean, been, they think you're going on these fabulous trips and all this kind of stuff. I'm like, no, do stuff with some purpose. Do things that make you just expand make your heart just expand, and you realize that you have purpose here. And when you find purpose, you find satisfaction. And when you find satisfaction, you find that contentment. And I believe that's what I'm experiencing in my life, is that contentment, because I have been doing purposeful things, not just random things to just check off the list and make it look like I'm living this great life, and purposeful things. And I find fulfillment there. So that's, I think, a missing element a lot of times in our singlehood.
Exactly. What are you hearing from, are you hearing from any parents?
I am hearing a little bit from the parents, and I've been kind of thinking about trying to figure out some sort of after school Zoom, after school virtual experience for them, kind of like they would have done if they were at school.
Right.
After school, they go to their different little groups, drama club and music or whatever they do. Well, I thought, we probably need something like this. I know when I was growing up, we actually had something called stepping stones. Did you guys have that, Yolanda?
I don't remember that.
I had stepping stones. It was a girls group. It wasn't Girl Scouts. It was a girls group, and it just really taught us about our self-image. We did modeling. We did, how to do, place setting, etiquette, how to speak well. So it was just kind of a grooming.
We did that similar stuff in church.
Mm-hmm.
And it just depends on if you have somebody in your church that's interested in that.
That does it.
And then with the work I did with Cece, my sister's
that's right.
It's a similar kind of thing for girls. Yeah.
So we had that. That was an after school project program for me. And so I would like to do something along those same lines, so that I can serve these parents who are, at home with their young people, and they get to deal with them on a more regular basis now. So there's the way they think and the way they behave. And it's not just the teacher writing a note saying, Johnny was a little out of line today. Now they're Johnny out of line all day because they're at home. A lot of them are home doing Zoom class.
Right.
They're like, well, how do I talk to my teen? How do I, they don't think I'm cool. How do I get them to listen to me? That sort of thing. And so I want to bring something like that. If my sister, she's in education, she says that would be called character education, actually.
Absolutely.
I'm wanting to mold those together, because parents really are having a hard time. And here's what they say to me, Yolanda. They say, I'll ask them, well, have you, tried to have this conversation with your child? Well, I don't want to tell them everything, because, if I tell them this, then they'll start asking questions, and I'm not trying to tell them. So the parent is embarrassed about their growing up and still have some unresolved issues back in those days, that is still some shame, some embarrassment.
Wow.
For me to say, sit down with your young person and share with them, they feel exposed, and they start to relive those feelings of how much they hated high school and how much they were maybe, bullied, and don't bring up, abstinence and sex, because a lot of them, well, I didn't wait, Lawanna, so I don't even want to.
How I even tell them that. Yeah.
And they don't want to bring it up because they don't want to have to tell, what they did wrong, which to me, which is why I wrote the book. I felt like, of course I'm going to tell you.
Right.
You to do better, and I don't want you to make any mistakes or those mistakes. Exactly. But they feel differently as a parent. They feel like, no, that would really put them in a position of compromise in some way, where maybe the child doesn't respect them any, or something like that. But I was surprised at how nervous they were about that,
Because
know.
transparency is what really sets young people free,
It really
because
is.
they
That's what
feel
they
like they
love.
have to be perfect and they end up messing up because they were like,
Mm-hmm.
I've done it. So now I'm just like, but if they hear the story,
Yeah.
they're able to say, oh, okay, they're not done with me. I can still, this is something
Right.
I still can work on. One of the things that I worry about with young people is when you and I were like high school and growing up, we were able to connect to people face to face and really get to know people.
Mm-hmm.
Our young people now, they're doing everything is online. And they
Everything's online.
really, I've noticed it even when I started interviewing young people, that they couldn't look me in my eye. They were always looking down because they're so used to looking at their phone.
It's
So I
true,
think it's
Yolanda.
really good for you to really look at and think about something for them, because that communication piece,
Mm-hmm.
and they need to know things go past just social media. You really don't know that person.
Yes.
And being able to teach them about those things, I think that's
Mm-hmm.
critical. I was telling you earlier that I was watching your show the other day,
Mm-hmm.
and your conversations about people sending messages in your DM. And
Yes.
it's not just young people, it's
It's
old
everybody.
people. I'm like, really, God, really? You really doing this?
Yes, that's true.
What would you say? And you guys shared a little bit on your live. What would you say is some of the best? Another word is probably best practices, or the right kind of way to communicate, because people are all on social media. So you're obviously going to be communicating with somebody online. What would you
Yes.
tell people how to do that? What would you
Well, the live this week was about being forthright, about being direct, and DM stands for direct message.
Right.
But we are rarely direct in these messages because typically it's a bunch of cutting up and clowning, and people trying to kind of put on like there's somebody that they're not, or just flat out like the kind of people I block, just flat out players and
exactly
no no scruples. And so so the point was that if you're going to utilize DMs, be direct, be upfront, be honest with what this is about. One of my favorite stories, a couple, Natasha and Jamal Miller, they have I
love them. Yeah.
Love the Millers. And they're one of my favorite stories because that is how Jamal met Natasha. And now they're, married with 2 kids and 1 on the way. And he literally, he noticed that they were it was like one big social media circle that they were all in. But, she was just one of many people that he'd never met her because they lived, I think she was in California at the time and he was in, I don't know.
Wow, I didn't realize that. Okay.
Yeah, so they'd never met. But because they were in this one big pool of people online, they all knew of each other, or at least had seen each other's names in a post, And so I believe Jamal had posted something and Natasha liked it. And then, similar a little later on, she posted something, he liked it, and then said a little encouragement. Hey, woman of God, I see what you're doing, looks great, whatever, the Bible study she had done or something. So it really started off as just, some, very friendly exchange. And, but one day he did find her attractive, number one. And so one day he decided, instead of just kind of commenting on a few things here and there, he actually went to her page and kind of looked through it. He was just like, oh, wow, this lady, she's really got it together. She was, doing Bible studies and, she was involved in ministry and things like that and serving her community. And so he was like, okay, so not only is she really, she's pretty, but she's really sweet and she loves the Lord, obviously. So he really kind of just pushed it to the back of his head. Later on, having a conversation with his pastor just flat out asked him one day, so is there anybody, you're attracted to, or anybody you're thinking about? He was like, it's this one girl. And his pastor, who is it? So he pulls her up on his social media and scrolls through it. He said, so what are you waiting on? but he's like, I don't really know her. I don't really, he's like, just message her. And that's literally how this all started for the Millers.
Wow.
He sent her a DM. Hey, Natasha, it's just looking through, your profile. It looks like you got some great things going on. I just wanted to, encourage you and just maybe we can, connect and chat at some point. Just that simple. Direct, Yolanda.
Direct. That's the point.
Clear and direct. So you knew what he was about. There was no, hey, beautiful, you fine. It wasn't
right.
Just he complimented her and just put it out there for, he had to put himself out there, which a lot of guys, this generation of guys, they have a little hard time with rejection, but you just have to put it out there and see how she responded. And she responded. And the rest, as they say, is history.
Yes.
So best practices, if you're going to use that as an option, especially with us all being in the state we're in now, where we're in we don't have the access like we used to public settings and outings. Just be direct. Be upfront with what you're trying to do.
Exactly.
And ladies, let's not just overwhelm the men with a lot of oh, you liking everything he posts and let there be some discretion.
Yeah.
Some mystery about you that draws them in. Okay. So that's still okay.
Right.
Yeah. You don't have to, be in his face 24/7, be on his page 24/7.
Right, stalking the page.
It doesn't have to be like that.
Exactly.
My favorite thing I'm telling the young people nowadays is drop the hanky. That's what I'm telling the young ladies, drop the hanky. And that's new to them. They had never heard that before. When they heard that, they lost it. They were like, Miss Lawanna. I was like, yes, ma'am. You may drop the hanky.
You need to explain that, Lawanna, because a lot of people don't understand that. So I need you to break that down.
Well, of course, back in the 1900s, this was a literal thing. You would go to a dance or a ball or whatever, or an outing, a festive occasion, and you literally would have your pretty little hanky with your little, lace and everything on it. And typically it was a little perfumed with whatever fragrance you were wearing. And so you just, ladies just kept hankies on them, right? Mm-hmm. And so you could be, in your little group, and the young man that you, attracted to could be passing by, and you literally your hanky in front of him. And because that was the whole time and era of gentlemen and chivalry, which that has not gone anywhere, by the way.
Right.
The young man would stop, pick up your hanky and hand it back, and it would give him opportunity to actually speak, meet, introduce yourself, and see if it went anywhere else. So how does that translate to now? My drop the hanky, in my case would be, I would say, sure, you can like something, you can comment, but leave it at that. Let's not overdo it. The whole point is just to give him a thought to think about. And if he continues to think about that, then he will pursue. But if he does not, then guess what? No harm, no foul, no heart is broken. The opportunity was presented. You can move on without all the games and your heart all tore up and feeling embarrassed. Maybe you made yourself look silly. You don't have to go through that because you gave him opportunity to, approach. Now, if I'm at church, there are a lot of times I'm carrying stuff. I don't drop things on purpose, but I tend to be a little clumsy. Sometimes that works.
Right.
But if I'm at, and I'm the type of person, I tell them I'm friendly, I will speak, and I will give you opportunity to, pick up the conversation. If I see that happening, great. If I don't see that happening and you're just a hi and how are you and we're passing on, I keep going.
Exactly. Okay. One of the things you just said, Lawanna, was about pursuing.
Mm-hmm.
And, I know I'm old school. I'm always going to be old school. God knows I'm old school. He going to work with my old schoolness.
And mine too.
one of the things that I've had come up in conversation with women, young and old, and a lot of them feel like instead of them waiting, they need to be pursuing the man. And I just can't do it. I feel men should be pursuing women. If they're interested, they should be the one pursuing.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. What are you seeing and what are your thoughts on that?
You know, this has come up a lot maybe in the last couple of years that I've noticed being online. I've seen a lot of posts of women on their knee, you know.
I'm not doing that.
Oh my goodness. That like, ooh, that hurt. That hurt when I saw that.
That hurt my heart when I see it. That hurt
my heart, Yolanda. I was like, Lord, are we there? Is that what we're doing now?
Right.
Even before that, you were seeing the young ladies asking the boys to prom. And, you know, instead of letting the boy ask them, they just be like, oh, I want to go with him. And so they just approach and ask. Now, you know, I know prom is a little lighter weight than marriage, but the principle behind it is that the man is created to lead. He's the one that, and I know we get into a lot of feminism and that kind of thing when we say stuff like this, because, you know, that's not popular anymore. But the truth of the matter is, ladies and gentlemen, God made man first and he made him the leader and the head. So what are we trying to do as women? Why do we want them to be the ones to approach? Because men think differently than women. And typically a man will, if he's the one making the approach, then he's also going to be, you can pretty much be guaranteed that he's going to continue to be the one to drive and move the relationship along. And if you don't see that kind of leadership or that kind of take charge, then that's something to be concerned about. Because for women, we are looking for someone who is a leader, who will take charge, who has vision, who is, we're looking for that safety. And so all of that really can be determined just from the fact of whether this man is taking initiative. One of my favorite thought leaders I follow in relationships is Tony Gaskins.
Yeah.
And people, the guys, I should say, do not appreciate Tony as much because he tells all of it. He tells it all. Game. He tells us all of what, you know, and gives the women a real good vantage point. But he's quick to tell you that, how do you know a man is into you? The response is when he's initiating and he's doing things and he's thinking forward about what to do next and where to go next. Now that doesn't mean that we don't have an opinion and we don't share. Right. It just means that for men, if you want to know if a man is into anything, into the job he has, into the church he's at, into the girl he's with, you will see him taking leadership and initiative and moving things forward. But when he's behind and he's kind of, you know, indecisive, unfortunately, you can expect that kind of behavior to continue. And it might be cute for a moment, but once things get, you know, serious, you're going to be asking, you know, well, why won't you just, and it'll turn into a point of contention versus it was cute before. You know, he's just a little shy, you know, I understand shy. I know shy. But there's a difference between not wanting to take the initiative, not wanting to move forward in a leadership-minded manner, and being shy. Right. That's just the way we're set up. That's just the way we're wired as men, women, male, female. The man is the one who typically is moving things along, and women, we get tired. I mean, be honest with yourself. Right. We get tired of a man not taking initiative. That's one of the first things we want to argue about when, you know, things start blowing up. You don't, okay, well, was he ever doing that? Right. Was he ever doing it? Was he ever moving forward? Was he ever the one, or have you always been the one that's kind of like pulling on him and you know, did you have to always push him to do stuff? Because if you're doing it now, you're gonna do it later. You're gonna do it later. You're gonna have to always be the one pushing the relationship along. And we don't like that. As much as we want to be in control, we really don't like that.
Right. I always tell people, I was like, I'm tired of leading. I don't want to, especially when you've
I
been
don't
leading for a long time. They can do it all. I mean, like, they can do it
They
all.
can do
I will
it.
follow them if they're
I
following
will.
God and they're
Yes,
following in
yes.
the right direction. I
Mhm.
will follow them.
I will
I
follow.
think one of the things that what happens sometimes with women, especially women in leadership positions,
Mhm.
women that have taken initiative before marriage and have built,
Mhm. Mhm.
whether it's
Oh,
their
yes.
career or their
Mhm.
business,
Mhm.
a lot of times when a man comes in and he's a strong leader, sometimes they get intimidated
Mm.
but I think God comes to complement
He does.
that. He
Absolutely.
comes to complement that. And I think we have to look closely
Mhm.
whether you would want a leader or somebody doing nothing and then just
Mhm.
determine which one would you prefer. And I
Absolutely.
think of women that have been leading and not to say that we want women not to lead, we don't want women
Mhm.
not to take initiative, but when you're in a partnership,
Mhm.
being able to have someone that says, okay, we're going to do this. And if it's something that's crazy, of course you're going to have a conversation like we
Right.
should do that. That's
Sure.
not what we're saying.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
I just feel like some women have gotten desperate
Yeah.
and they've gotten impatient with waiting.
Mhm.
And
Yes,
so
ma'am.
they've stepped out and said, I'm gonna make this happen. Because
I'm gonna make it happen. That's
Mhm.
what they say. And if you make it happen, you'll have to keep making it
Keep
happen.
it. Yes, you got to keep it going.
You got to
If you
keep it
have
going.
done that, then you're going to have to
Mhm.
really keep it going.
You're gonna have to keep going.
One of the things that I've seen in your work, in your ministry, and with your speaking,
Mhm.
that you're also working with authors, writing. I have a
Yes.
couple of books out. You have a
Mhm.
couple of books out, but that process takes discipline and
Oh my gosh.
organization. And I know you're with the organization and you're leading one in the Nashville area that's helping authors. Why don't you share a little bit about that for those that may be watching that want to start with their book?
Great. Well, I recently, just during the pandemic, again, became the national vice president for an organization called the Aspiring Writers Association of America, AWAOA. And so it literally is the difference between maybe our association and maybe some of the other writing groups that are out is that our goal is to push you to publish. We want you to have a published work. Several, as many as you'd like, but we want to get you on that whole road to publishing. And so you'll notice in our meetings, when we do meet, which of course we're doing virtual meetings now,
Mhm.
we are critiquing your work, we're giving you feedback, and then you have at your fingertip resources, people who have done this, people who have making their livelihood out of this, who can walk you through your process. And if you want to self-publish, if you want to look for actual agent with a publisher to go that route, whatever route you want to take, we are there to support you through the entire process. And that's from idea of what you think you want to write about, all the way through your manuscript, all the way through to format, layout, and published work. And we stay there to support you throughout as long as you want to stay with us. And so it's a wonderful organization. I'm really glad to be a part of it. A friend of mine from home in Michigan reached out to me. We probably hadn't talked to each other in over 15 years.
Wow.
And she saw my book, but we were following each other on social media. She saw that my book was out and she reached out and we reconnected. And we're growing. I think we're even growing even more now that we're virtually than we were,
Right. I was going to ask you about that. Yes.
Mhm. So first of the year, stay tuned to my social media. I'll be announcing quite a bit of the new initiative of, we're going to probably stay virtual for a while, at least until now, at least until we know what's going on with the pandemic.
Mhm.
We'll be opening up for new members. And so
Okay.
move everything online, and I think it's going to be an awesome opportunity. But yes, so in the kind of on the side, if you want to say that, or in the process, I actually do sit down with upcoming authors, and whether that's on the phone or FaceTime or Zoom or
Mhm.
whatever the case is, and walk them through wherever they are, wherever they find themselves stuck at, or if it's at the very beginning. I've got a young lady now who's at the very beginning of her book. So we've been brainstorming, and I've been helping her kind of format and do an outline and get her thoughts together. I have another young lady who's pretty much in the thick of her book. She's just trying to kind of develop these characters. And so
Great.
I'm there for her for that. And we have some great sessions together on the phone and FaceTime. So, we're making this whole virtual thing work.
Amen. I'm telling you, I've been online for quite a while doing coaching, executive coaching.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And I would fly to some people that were in C-suite to work with them. And I've transitioned them all to online. And I'm so used to it. I'm like, now they're like, wow. I'm like, yeah, it can be like you're here. We can work this out. So I think companies are going to really begin to see that their line item for travel, they're going to be cutting that, because a lot of times you can close those deals virtual, or you can do those conferences virtual, workshops virtual. And so I think a lot of companies are going to be pivoting to do some different things. They may still travel, but I think you're going to see more of that pivot to online and doing. And I was just watching, I think it was Oprah, she was interviewing President Barack Obama. The way they did it, girl, I'm like, look at this technology. It
Isn't that amazing?
I'm like trying to Google, like, how she do that? I don't need to do that. I know she got billions of dollars, so she got to bring that stuff in like that. I was like, how did they do that?
It was amazing.
Amazing. That was the main thing I was focused on. I'm like, okay, I done gone online. I'm like, how to green screen. Girl, I was researching.
Yes, because it looked like they were there.
I think God is going to give us some really innovative ways for ministry, for entrepreneurship, for your businesses. A lot of times we can sit back in a pandemic and say, I have to wait.
Yeah.
Or you can sit back in a pandemic and say, okay, what can I start during this time? How can I take my business to the next level? And I think whether it's writing a book or the time that we've been at home, everybody should have a book out.
No, right. If you wrote about nothing but the pandemic.
Exactly. And so finding ways to use our time, and I've watched you and have seen how God had, from the beginning and to now, what God has done with your business, with your ministry. And I wanted to ask you, what's next for you? What do you see as next for you?
Yolanda, I had this conversation with one of my favorite millennials. We have all connected on social media. And so we actually have this whole abstinence and
I love it.
Kind of network going now. And our slogan, unofficial slogan, is making abstinence visible.
Yeah.
And so we were talking the other day, catching up, and I literally have met her like maybe the second year the book was out. So it's like we feel like we know each other now, like we're family. And literally she said, Lawana, what are you waiting on? What's next? And what are you waiting on? I said, for the longest, I've always, thought I had to wait on permission or wait on somebody to say, yes, Lawana, that's it, do that, But the times that I have just gone ahead and done what I knew to do and what God put in me to do, it always just turns out so I'm like, wow, God, I had no idea. Yeah. And I think this next step that I've been waiting on, I'm at that place again where I'm like, should I do this, or maybe I need to wait and see what somebody else. And she was like, just do it. Don't wait. Exactly. Create the platform you want to see.
Exactly.
So moving forward, Yolanda, I've got a couple things that I really want to get into. Definitely want to start hosting some conferences. I've just got so many questions that came out of just Monday Night's Live, and they were like, Miss, can you do one on this? Can you do one on that? And I was like, yes, I will. But I was like, but this would be so good if we could offer this in a conference type setting, maybe make it annually or biannually, where this community converges and they get, hands-on information and things that are tailored to them for their successful single lives. So I do want to do something like that. That's in the works. Also, I kind of put my Will Speak Inc. on hold. I was doing, live events here in town, in Nashville, and but that takes a lot of manpower and all of that. And so now that everything is going virtual again, I said, now this will work. And I have young people who are like, if you ever do your, fear of public speaking class again, if you do that online, I'm like, okay. So I'm getting ready to do some course creating and create
Yeah.
a course. And with the workbook, I really felt like, again, it's funny how you get one thing done and you're like, but I'm done.
Exactly.
I'm done, Jesus. And he's like, no, there's one more thing. And so with this book, I said, I need a hands-on element. I just felt like I needed something that would kind of walk them through it, personally, and just kind of be there. And so I think I'm going to do some, it's going to be some sort of course content, but it's going to be more small group. So I'll probably take about, anywhere from 6 to 8 young people in the course, and we'll do the whole, I won't take any more people until we've gone through the entire thing. And we'll have monthly checkpoints where I actually check in with them and how's this going? Let's talk it through. What did you get out of that? And really, I'm looking to really lay foundation, I think.
Yeah.
I think sometimes with laying foundation, especially with our young people, it takes a little more hands-on. You can't just hand it to them and say, go.
Right.
So while I do want them to make it, very much their own, I think I need to be there to guide a little bit more than just hand them this and say, take it. So I do want to create something really cozy and really, personable around the workbook as well that can rotate, throughout the year. So
exactly.
That's what I got. That's what's cooking right now.
Yeah. So tell everyone how they can reach you. How can they get your books? Can you hold your books up one more time so they can see them? And then just tell them how they can purchase them.
All right. Well, Virgin the book and the devotional journal are available at my website, LawanaRWilson.com. And the bookstore, just click on the bookstore option and it'll take you there. Also available at Amazon.com, so you can also get them there. And I'm available for live coaching Monday nights, 7:30 Central, every Monday night. On IG Live, and that's probably my main virtual experience that I do on the regular. So if you missed me one Monday, I'm there the next Monday.
Great. So you guys saw how you heard how you can follow Lawanna on Instagram and on Facebook and on her website. Order her book. Youth pastors, even in a pandemic, your young people need support, so you can reach out to Lawanna to even do some training virtual for your youth leaders and for your youth. And so I think during this pandemic, pastors are looking for different ways to continue to reach their congregation.
Absolutely.
And I really feel like what you're doing is going to be relevant during this season. And God has placed you where he has placed you for such a time as this. And I'm so proud of the work that you're doing and wanted to just spend a little time having this conversation about what you're doing with your ministry and where it's going. You guys, those of you that are interested in publishing, reach out to Lawanna and get involved.
Please do.
At the top of the year, she said they're going to be inviting new people into that. And so make sure you reach out. I will put her links and her contact information in the podcast. So when they link onto the podcast, they'll see your contact information there as well, Lawanna. So thank you so much for joining me on
Thank you so much, Yolanda.
With Yolanda. It's always a pleasure to have you here with me.
Thank you so much for having me. It was awesome. Always love catching up with you.